Hey guys, it's Jonah here. Once again, I'm back with a beer review, and this one's a reasonably specialist one because I have got one of these. You might have seen these in the supermarket in the UK. Sainsbury's especially, Waitrose. I'm not sure if Tesco's do them. I think I've seen one of these in Marks and Spencer, if I remember. So they are freely available. Greens, and if you look down at the bottom, I don't know if you can, if it'll focus on that thing, gluten-free. So it's a gluten-free beer. I don't know if we want to have a bit of a discussion as to what the gluten-free means. Basically, gluten is a protein which comes from wheat mainly. You do find it in barley too. And basically, over the last few hundred years, the levels of this protein, this gluten, have risen quite considerably, and they're bad for your health. And there's a certain group of people called celiacs who are actually allergic to this particular protein and can have pretty violent reactions. Now, one of my friends, Sherv, you're out there, brother, he challenged me because although he's not celiac, he's definitely he's gone on to a gluten-free or as low gluten as possible kind of diet, and he's been itching for me to do a review of a gluten-free beer, such as this one, Greens. Now, if you look underneath the gluten-free bit, it says Gilded Golden Ale. Gilded? Does that mean it's had its knackers cut off or something? Don't know. Anyway, I quite like the design of this bottle. They're all this kind of metallic colour. Each beer has a distinct label colour. So this one's a sort of orange and it's the golden ale. They do an IPA, which is green. They do a few other ones. There's a lager in it. I actually thought this was a lager to start with, but it isn't. And this beer is 4.8, almost 5% on the ABV. It's a 330, and as you well know, I don't really like the 330s, but this one I don't actually mind. The actual shape of the bottle is quite nice. It's a long, thin one. It has a neck chief announcing that this is a crisp light ale with a subtle malt background made from natural spring water. So they're going for the kind of natural thing here. And it says it's free of gluten and free of wheat. But interestingly, if you read on the background here, it says this contains barley. And I was thinking, well, hang on, barley. Oh, let's have a look. Nice little cap saying greens. I like that. But also, it could be G for gluten-free. Barley does contain a certain amount of gluten. And if you go onto the Greens website, there's lots and lots of weird stuff on there about how most of their beers don't use barley at all, and they definitely don't use wheat. So they're using older styles, more ancient grains, sorghum, buckwheat. I think rice counts as gluten-free as well. So you could argue that GM processes have actually created the gluten as a byproduct of how we actually make our modern kind of grains, especially wheat and barley. However, this particular beer does contain barley, so there is a secret process of somehow eliminating the gluten from the barley within this beer. I cannot find any kind of documentation of how they do this process, but what I have found is this. And what this is a certificate of analysis, as you can see, done by a British company over in Hebden Bridge. There's a link to the last beer I reviewed, which is quite unique. And it says it has 10 parts per million detection of gluten within this sample. All very interesting. So that report was done in the UK, and the UK says if it's under 20 parts per million, we can call it gluten-free. If you live in America You can't use any barley or any wheat because the enzymes leave tiny little particles in the actual beer which could cause an allergic reaction. Same as Australia. If you're interested, I have done my research for once. Anyway, let's get to drink this beer and let's see what we think. So, here we go. It has been in the fridge. As you all know, I quite like having a nice chilled beer. Ooh. Bit of a hoppy aroma there. Bit of smoke as well, tiny amount. Let's get this in a glass. I've used a normal pint glass, even though I know it's a 330. Lovely, I'm getting some nice aromas. Ooh, lovely malty aromas. Now, look at that. Nice amount of carbonation in there. And no surprise that it's giving a good finger's head. And the colour, let's have a look at that colour. You can just about see my handsome young face through there. Look at the bubbles, there's loads of bubbles. This is not a nucleated glass, it's just a standard glass. But you can see a good deal of carbonation there. Let's go for the nose. Nice, fresh aroma, not very hoppy. I can detect a tiny little bit of hops, and if I was to guess, I would probably say it was something like a Golding's hops, which goes really well with a nice golden beer, although I wouldn't, it's not a pale ale by any means. Look at that, really, really golden colour. This is going to be very interesting. I've been dying to get into this one. Let's see if the gluten-free beer tastes very good. Getting that carbonation up front. Give me a reasonably dry finish, going through to a kind of milky-ish finish. I'm sure that's not the case because this has also got, I believe it's a vegetarian. Yeah, vegetarian. I was going to say vegan, but I don't think it is. But it's definitely got a vegetarian stamp on. So having some sort of lactose in there, no chance at all. But you're definitely getting a smooth creaminess to that. Very interesting. Let's go in a bit. Nice clean finish. This is not a hoppy beer by any stretch of the imagination. I'm not 100% sure because it doesn't have an IBU statement. But this is going to be sort of under I'd say under 40 IBUs, maybe even 30. It does have a little bit of residual sweetness too, which I particularly like because I'm quite... Please beg my pardon. I told you it was a carbonated beer, didn't I? I'm quite a malt head. I do drink hoppy beers, and I do obviously do reviews and IPAs and crazy double IPAs and imperial IPAs and all that kind of stuff. However, I like to taste the malt. I like the malt to shine through, and this malt has had an enzyme added to it to get rid of one of the proteins. So it's very interesting to me that it still tastes like malt, malted barley. I think this is a fantastic beer. And any people out there who are worried, any celiacs that are worried, as I say, in the UK, this has passed certification to say it is a gluten-free beer. However, there's always going to be people that are extra sensitive to the gluten. So and you guys know who you are. So I would say do whatever method you see fit to see if you're going to have a reaction to this beer. Whether it's taking a small amount and pouring it on your skin, seeing if you have a reaction, or watering it down, you know, with some water, and then seeing how reactive you are to it. However, it does have certification saying it's within UK and European toleration levels. You've even seen the certificate. So Shimon, I reckon you should go out and try this beer. It is fantastic, and if you do have a reaction to gluten, this is a much better way of getting back into beer than just trying a normal beer. Fantastic, guys. Well done to Greens. Please go and check out their other beers. If I can find some, I might well try some other beers. I quite like to try their IPA in contrast with the Golden Ale. We'll see. If they're watching this, maybe they'll get back to me and give me some samples. I'll be only too happy to review them for you. Guys, this has been Uncle Jonah doing another beer review for you. Hope you've enjoyed this one. Hope you've enjoyed the science behind it. I'm a mad scientist at heart. And we'll see you real soon for some more beer, some more reviews. And guys, have a happy 2017.